Hey everyone, this is Tanveer back on the podcast series Disruptors on the Block, where we cover all things related to blockchain, enterprise blockchain, asset tokenization, and Web3. We like to cover all the major industries, whether it is capital markets, obviously, real estate, green energy, commodities trading, and I always wanted to cover healthcare. So excited to be talking a little bit about blockchain in the healthcare space, and very thrilled to have a special guest with us. She's the founder of Aurkei, very accomplished in the healthcare and medical profession, having worked as an executive at Aetna, which big name in the healthcare industry, and then she grew into a chief medical officer role for a couple of different organizations. And about 2 years ago, she launched Aurkei, where they're doing some really cool things at the intersection of blockchain and healthcare. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you, Sapna, to our podcast.
Well, thank you, Tanvir. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I'm excited to be here as well.
Yeah, I think we'll cover some great things today. For the benefit of my viewers, me and my business partner Ricardo, we do these podcasts. We also run a conference called Token Expo. We started with San Francisco, did an event last year. We'll be doing another event this year, August 5th, at the Presidio House of Web3, iconic location in the Web3 space, the House of Web3. So we'll have our all-day conference there, and then we're hoping we'll roll this out to other cities as well. So that's a little bit about what we do. We do events, we do podcasts, and a bunch of other things to help Web3 companies, build communities, put the spotlight on them, help them go to market, etc. Right. So, Sapna, today, want to talk about some of the cool things you're doing in healthcare. To set the stage for our conversation, could you walk us through what Aurkei does and why do you think it's a revolutionary in the healthcare space?
Oh, absolutely. Ask a founder to talk about their startup, right? Or a mom to talk about their baby. So, Archie, primarily, we call it our blockchain healthcare. I think that's probably a very oversimplification. We could call it the first data coin, or you could call it the TikTok of healthcare, and multiple different ways of looking at it depending on who's the audience. Primarily, what we're trying to do is put the power of data back in the hands of the individuals. Healthcare has traditionally been a very, very patriarchal institution where everybody, to their credit and the best of their ability, wants to help people. They want to help you get healthier. They want to help you in a lot of different ways. I think for the first time, what Archie is doing is creating a platform where patients can help themselves. That's the exciting part about Archie.
I love the analogy you use, TikTok of healthcare. So tell me more about that.
If I were to just go out on a limb, I would call it the TikTok of healthcare, simply because we're gamifying healthcare. And, probably my professors in medical school will be like rolling their eyes right now and wondering what they taught me. One of the challenges we face is trying to get people to adopt. The critical mass adoption of any new technology, any new solution is one of the hardest challenges there is. Any business school will tell you that. You don't need a business school for that. If you're on Facebook, you don't want to go on anything else. If you're on any of the newer apps, you don't want to go back, simply because people tend to be in clusters. Right now, it's time of TikTok. Well, how long it lasts, nobody knows for sure, right? How do we get people to take care of themselves? How do we get people to be engaged enough to participate in their own healthcare? We have to create a fun way, an exciting way, a safe way. That's the most important thing, where they feel secure uploading their healthcare data. So there's two aspects of it. It's a flip version, right? On one aspect is the highly technical clinical notes and your images and your other healthcare data. But then there's also this factor of user generated data, where people are using Fitbits, nanowears. They're all over the world eating, exercising. People go on vacation and they just want to go run, Madrid, Barcelona, wherever you are. You just want to go for a run. So they're taking their healthcare devices with them. So there's a lot of data that they're generating just by living, just by breathing, just by being themselves. Why not enable them to be able to share those experiences with people, where not just are they contributing to the common goal of research or scientific advancement, but also generating value for their data and earning coin back to themselves, which they can then use for their various healthcare needs. So in a sense, Archie becomes the TikTok where everybody can be an influencer, everybody earns coin, and everybody helps each other for each other's betterment.
No, this is great. And I want to get a little more granular, right? So just to make sure I understood, the now I'll talk a couple of things as well. So in the age of Web 2, it was like, hey, we will create posts on Facebook or any of the other big social media platforms, but we can monetize it ourselves, correct? And Web 3 is allowing that monetization aspect to come in. This is nice what you're doing, gamification. You're gamifying it, making it fun. I guess the ultimate outcome is for people to get more healthy and not have to go to the doctors as much as sick patients, correct? So probably improving health and wellness, right? How different it is from, there's a lot of content already. I don't know if it's, some of it may be being monetized, others just do it at a hobby level, where people may create videos on YouTube Shorts or YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, right? Here, I think you're bringing in a layer of monetization, right? So could you tell us a little more about what's different from just creating content? We've seen that, right? There's some YouTube channels, and all they are cooking, right? It's people with passion. Here are my recipes, and they have millions of followers, right? Because they've been doing it over a period of time. They build that community. How different is your world as far as that monetization is concerned from just putting content out on any social media platform?
So that's actually a really good question. And to make it more complicated, people always tell me to dumb it down. And I'm like, no, I don't want to dumb it down. People are very tech savvy these days. They don't need me to dumb anything down for them. So we have the front end and we have the back end. The front end is where we have the patients, people, they're not sick yet, they're healthy, they're people, they're just regular folks like you and that want to be healthy. On the back end, we have these clinical EMR notes, the technical stuff, the CCDA files that are living in exchanges or the EMRs. So what Aurkei does is we do a hybrid model where we have on the back end, we do B2B monetization for the patients. And, patients come first for us no matter what, or what we do, patients come first for us. On the back end, we help with the B2B data monetization where, you went to the doctor, you stubbed your toe, what have you, you had a nosebleed, anything. Right now, monetization is happening on the back end to the tune of over 80 plus billion dollars per year that patients don't get to see a penny of. And it's sad
Did
because
I
then,
hear 80 billion with the B?
yes, that is correct.
Okay, all right. Staggering number. Okay, please go ahead.
Very high number. Nobody knows what they want to do with the data. They just like to collect data. It's a thing, it's like, oh, data is the new gold, so everybody wants to have it, so you just
So
keep
the consumer's not making money, but someone else is, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Nobody knows that that is even a problem. It's not a problem till you have a child who has a rare genetic condition, till you have a 75-year-old woman who broke her hip, who's on Medicaid. Who knows how long Medicaid is going to last? Who knows how Social Security works? It doesn't really matter. At this point, what's happening is that people are doing research, getting insights from this back end data that you don't see a penny of. So if the 75-year-old woman goes home, she has to recover from her fracture, but she has to eat better too. She has to go to therapy. She has to pay for the cab that's going to take her to the therapy. She can't suddenly go and get on a bus. So these are the various problems that people face, that data monetization, even a portion of the funds, if it can be reverted back to the individual, for the misfortune of being sick, unfortunately, they can use it for something. We're not going to give them a lot of money, but every little bit helps. So that's the back end part of it. So when we try to do that, we still need engagement. We still need people to adopt Aurkei as their healthcare. The name Aurkei is our key, right? It's our key to health and wealth. So without people, we're nothing. So we need people to adopt it. How do we get people to adopt it to such an extent that they not only get the monetization value from the back end, but also from the front end? Because remember, the back end data, everybody and their mother-in-law has it. EMRs, insurance companies, hospitals, everybody has it. They're not able to get insights because that's retrospective data. That's data that has already happened in the past. Where Aurkei is heading is towards the future of prospective patient-generated data, where you're generating data on the live, you're capturing it, you're giving insights. Because think about it, like if you and I both had the same health condition, you may require 22 milligrams of a certain medication, and I may need 17 milligrams of the same medication based on various factors. Right now, that's not the case. Everybody gets a pill. Like, it gives new meaning to the word pill, right? A cookie cutter more version of a pill. Everybody gets the same pill. So in the future, that's not going to be the case, wherein people are going to be treated based on their age, their BMIs, their ability to process these medications, where pharmacokinetics, pharmacogenetics, all of these are going to play a role. So, but how are we going to tie these front end and back ends together? That's where the TikTok of healthcare comes in. So our initial product offering is to the consumers is going to be a decentralized marketplace for clinical trials, wherein you may be a snorer, you've always been a snorer, but suddenly there's a change in pattern of snoring, and you don't know what to do about it. You want to go to the doctor, but it's not serious enough that you don't go to the doctor. But what if suddenly on Aurkei they say, hey, your local hospital has a sleep center and they're running a trial. Do you want to be part of it? You could get like whatever, a couple of coins if you just wear this ring, whatever, and then help them. So how do we connecting the dots to where these kind of cool services exist to people who are not spending as much time thinking about them? That's where I call it the TikTok of healthcare, is in like front end, patient first, patient driven. Play with it, play with the app, see what you can do in a safe way. When Elon Musk a few months back asked people to upload their MRIs, I was reading and I was like, no way are people going to put their MRI up images up there. You know what? When Elon asked people to do it, I suppose there were MRI images up there. It's a shocker that it's so sensitive. It's so classified. People are in a different stage of technological development right now. They're comfortable. They're like, let's all do this together. And especially in the blockchain world, we're all brethren of a certain order, right? We believe in helping people. So that's the difference between the back and the front. Nobody wants to see how the food is being cooked in the restaurant. Not you just want to go sit there and eat. So the TikTok is the front end part, the restaurant, the fancy part.
One thing I want to clarify this, Sapna. You use a very interesting term. So a decentralized marketplace for clinical trials, right? Is that the primary offering for Aurkei, or is this one of many things?
That is the primary.
At your core, is that what you are at your
At
core?
the core, that is where we are, because we want to be the Amazon of healthcare, right? And we want people to just talk into their phones, be able to diagnose themselves, be able to go to their doctor and say, hey, can I get this and can I get that? And all my fellow doctors will probably get mad at me right now for saying that, because it's hard. It's hard enough. Once we get through the initial learning phase, it'll get easier and simpler and less mistakes, more accuracy in healthcare. So that's where we are right now.
So let's build on this. I think we've set the stage. This is very interesting, right? Now, can you walk me through, and for the rest of the audience, right? What is broken now in the way current things are done? What is really broken, and how you're going to fix it, and then what the that ideal solution would look like, right? This is a very loaded question. And I also want to understand, who is your customer? Is your customer the end patient? Is your customer, the big healthcare companies or the healthcare insurance companies? Who's your customer, or is it all of them? So just to, my three-part question is, what is broken right now in the way clinical trials are being done? How are you going to fix it? Who's going to benefit? And who are your customers?
It's a 300-part answer, I should say. What's broken? It's hard to answer that question. We're doing great. We have dedicated team of doctors, nurses, clinicians, everybody. Insurance companies, to their credit, people don't understand how little the margins are in insurance companies. It's easy to just say, hey, it's an insurance company, they're rich. But the margins are very, very low. And then there's the government, the CMS, the Medicaid, the funds have to come from somewhere. So when you look at, but when it comes to my kids or my family or my grandma, we don't want to know all that. We just want to be healthy. We just want to be better. So when you look at what's broken, everything, the communication is broken, the ability to dispense healthcare is broken, the ability to track where people are falling into the cracks is broken, the ability to progress forward in research. We went to the moon in the 60s and we were like nowhere on anywhere else. But the same thing could be said for healthcare. You have these small uni-model solutions. You have these really cutting-edge technological advancements, but they're not going to benefit everybody, right? There's very few people who really need that specialized robotic surgery, and it's good that they do it. We don't want a lot of people to get that. But where you and I stand, the everyday person, we don't want to get to the point where we need this cutting-edge robotic surgery that they've spent millions of dollars. We just want to not have to get to that phase. So that's where it's broken. The problem has been this all good intentions, whatever that saying is at this point. I'm like overloaded on sayings, but it's the unimodel solutions is what I call it. And in the VC world, in the capital raising world, it's called pure play. I'm often asked, hey, why can't you create a pure play? I'm like, no, I'm not going to create a pure play. Healthcare doesn't work like that. There is no one single solution for anything. What is required is an enterprise project where you put patient front and center. So when you ask who our consumer is we don't like to use the word user in Aurkei. We call them consumers. We don't want to call them patients because we don't want them to be sick, right? We're patient first. We're patients representatives, we are patients data brokers, we are everything for the patients, for the patient, of the patient, by the patient, if you may. So
And will be the patient paying you? Is the patient the subscriber here?
yes, that's
Uh,
subscription.
okay, so the patient is the subscriber. Okay.
But
Consumer, in your case, they are your
consumer.
consumer, right?
But it's a reverse model, right? We're all used to the freemium model where you download an app for free, but then if you want to upgrade it, you had to pay for it. Here we're reversing the paradigm and we're saying download the app and make money. People are not used to that. People are not used to anybody saying that to them. So that's what we're saying. Download the app, get money for whatever you do.
Let's talk about this. I want you to dumb it down because I don't understand healthcare very well. I'm a blockchain enthusiast. There's some industries I understand better than others. So if maybe you can use, I don't know if you want to use an example of a healthy person who's just focused on, he or she working out regularly, they're in good shape and they just want to, stay in good shape. Or it might be someone who is experiencing, a certain illness or a disease and wants to get better. Either one of those two examples. Who are you targeting? Who should be downloading your app? How will they start using Orkey? How will they start earning rewards? It'll be great if you can cover that.
Initially, of course, our initial market is the healthy people, the tech savvy healthy people who understand a little bit
The
more.
ones you said wear the Fitbits and they are
Yes,
tracking
yes, we love those people.
their calories and all of that, right?
Yes, now it's all about the weighted vest. We love those people. We want those people to download our key. We want them to be tracking everything that's happening. That's the first phase.
So you download Orkey and what do you start doing?
If you can integrate and upload all your data, kind of like what Apple has been trying to do, but it's kind of hard for them to do it because there's no third party. Peloton wants to keep its data. Every Fitbit wants to keep its data. Apple wants to keep its data. What we're saying right now is like, hey, you're not the person running 3 miles in that 100-degree heat. So how come you get to keep the data? The patient should be keeping that. The repository, the data repository stays in the individual's Archie account, the data wallet that we are creating for them. Then comes the decentralized marketplace where you can.
Now, what are the top data types you want to bring in? You mentioned Peloton. Is that a valid example? You want to bring their Peloton data or their Fitbit data? Also, I think almost everyone nowadays has a portal for all their health, right? Like, I take care of my mom, and yesterday she went to the doctor, so I logged into the portal to see the results, right? So are you talking about someone connecting that to your app and just giving consent, and now you're able to get all her tests and all of that into
In
Orkey?
context, in context, the key is in context. So you have your patient portal when you go to the doctor's office, and a lot of people don't know that all the data is not released to the portal. So there are bits and pieces missing, which are what the doctor wants to share is shared with you, but that's not the way it should be. And then the context for predictive analytics, if you want AI to have insights on how you're actually performing, you need to be able to connect the front end and the back end, just to put it in simple terms. You're on Peloton, but you also had your cholesterol medication changed in live time. That needs to happen. That critical piece is missing right now. There's no way to connect those two pieces.
Yeah, but is it possible now, or there is a certain amount of regulation that needs to happen, right? So John Smith wants to get onto Orkey. I say this is where I want to make sure I understood you. I think the Peloton part, or the number of steps that they're walking, or maybe they're keeping their calorie count, and there's so many apps for that, right? Those may be easier, right? But that'll require them to, like, in the back end, maybe APIs or whatever. But your app will allow them to go and connect and bring that data easily. Is that available now, or is that what you're working towards?
The integration part is what we're working on. The backend data is already federally mandated to reside in health information exchanges. The federal government already mandated.
Like an Epic, right? When you talk about a health information exchange.
Yes, you have to have a centralized health information. Everything is already there. We just have to get it and put it in place. That's all it is. But we need individuals to first assign us.
And for the individual, the motivation is that they can earn rewards, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
That is
that type of motivation, right? But there may be some players who may not like you, right? And who are those players who may not like you?
the list is long.
Maybe the federal government, or maybe government entities. Like, hey, why are you guys doing this? Correct?
Well, we're essentially here for the patient. So there's an often misunderstood construct on HIPAA. HIPAA is the Health Information Portability Patient Protection Act, where you have people don't understand it. There's a loophole there where it's been taken advantage of, where if you can sell data for research, but what kind of research? Market research, how to sell more products, how to get more customers. What kind of research are you selling that? So people don't understand that. For the first time, we're clarifying that and saying that it's patient protection. You are the owner of your data. We are your data brokers. We're not violating HIPAA. We're actually representing you to protect your HIPAA. That's the key part that needs to be communicated. So it's important that people understand that.
And I will switch gears in a minute. But while we're talking about how this is going to work, are you able to share what kind of rewards they will actually earn, and what does that mean, right? Or that's TBD, right?
I think we can just give them a brief glimpse. We do have a token, a crypto coin. It's called our coin. The easy part is to just launch it. The hard part is to make sure it has liquidity, it has value in it. We are limited. We are capped. We're not, unlimited, undefined number of coins. We also have a very clear vesting schedule.
So they can earn coins, and that there is a certain value as
Built
more users get on. Will those coins be able to be transferred or traded? It could be traded, right?
not
Or it's sold,
yes.
or maybe it could be redeemed for some other health benefits, possibly, right?
Medications, other blood pressure medicines, glucometers. Everybody is giving those out right now. But what
Right.
you need is services. What people need mostly is services. You don't need all these fancy things. You just need to be able to go to a doctor. You need to be able to chiropractor. And you don't want to use your insurance for everything. And insurance doesn't cover all these things. What if your dentist wanted to take some coin and go to his podiatrist? And that way we create a token economy where everybody is passing this coin around. Ultimately, it will grow in value where people can sell those off. But what we want to do first is to be enabling this token economy where people get comfortable with getting more healthcare services.
Gotcha. Okay, this is all making sense now, right? And how are you going to, or are you planning to make this a little more fun, right? Just that when people like to post you go for a vacation and they post a picture, right? It's bragging, right? Here's my picture in Bali, me and my family, the kids, or I climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and you get the bragging rights, right? Is there that element here where people can brag about it, or it creates a little bit of that emotional pull, right?
We want it to be fun. We're all about the fun part, but also we want people to be safe. We don't want people falling off the cliffs, taking pictures of themselves. But we also want it to have some meaning in there for a purpose. And that's the clinical trial aspect part of it. So, yes, you probably ate, sauteed bugs in Thailand, but is it doing something for your health? Is there a clinical trial somewhere that actually studies these? Do you want to aggregate all that data and be able to be front and center for that clinical trial? So, yeah, fun with a purpose.
And now, and see, another appeal where I'm seeing this happen is I don't know how clinical trials work, but I'm not anticipating that people are eager to go and do it. Probably some people do it because they in the hope of improving their health, rare disease, and okay, I'll do the clinical trial. It's part of the research. Maybe people get paid. Do people get paid for clinical trials? Do they
No.
make money of it? That's okay. So that's not legal, right? But in your world, if all that data is there, then you could be the matchmaker, right? That hey, maybe John Smith is a great candidate for a clinical trial, right? But will John Smith earn a reward for agreeing to do the clinical trial?
So
A point. Yeah.
there's ethical concerns about paying people to be participating in your clinical
So
trials.
why do people do clinical trials then, right? If they're not getting paid, how does that industry work? Or they quite often I know they do it in other countries as well, right? I believe they do it in a developing or underdeveloped country, and that's common in the industry, right?
It's hard, because most of the time they just do it because someone is sick or dying. So we don't want them to get there. We don't want that happening. And then the secret sauce. This is where the secret sauce of Aurkei comes in, where our technology secret sauce is. We call it the trackability without the hackability model. where we need to be able to match and pair these individuals with the need for the clinical trials. But even we shouldn't be seeing who these people are. Nobody needs to know who these people are. So that's our secret sauce in our NFIT, the non-fungible identity token. And that's highly guarded at this point. And that's the beauty of it. So they're not going to get paid for participating per se. They're going to get paid earlier on for those sauteed bug videos. They can get paid for the clinical trials as long as it's a blinded or an open study, not a blinded study. But then clinical trial world itself is going to evolve. Currently what they do is they get middle layers, the CROs, their contract billing starts right away. They make a lot of money to match people to these trials, and then it's not a fun situation where it's just a do or a die kind of situation, or sometimes it's just people lose interest. Attrition rate is high. 90% of the people never finish their clinical trials. Over $1 billion is lost every year. Every year over $1 billion is lost. That's value that we're waiting.
That's a big problem because I didn't realize that, right? Because a clinical trial could be spread over weeks or months, right? And people started, then life gets in the way. There's no motivation, and I can see. So you have to do a larger sample to handle that churn.
Monetization is not necessarily for participating, finish it up. But the longer you stay engaged with Aurkei, you're going to be rewarded in other ways ethically without impacting the trial itself. So that's our problem.
So now I want. This is a question I love to ask every founder, right? That what is that moment of epiphany, right? That light bulb moment, that inspiration point that said, "I'm going to build Orkey," right? Was it a personal story or something you encountered? What was that burn?
I don't know about light bulbs. Most of the time, it's like a lightning wrapped in thunder. But it's not a one moment. It's a lot of little moments that build up. One of the other things that you made me think about is how do you balance being on the regulation side of it as a physician versus, this freelance way of being a startup founder. It's hard. It's like you have to rein yourself in at your daytime job, but then, when you're like dreaming and envisioning, you have to let yourself go free. So I think it's that pent up need to create something that's so free, so fun, it has a widespread appeal. So I think it's been a lot of little moments when you see patients not being able to pay for their care. It's a lot of moments where you see patients didn't show up for their clinic because they didn't have $10, but then they relapsed into their drug addiction. It's a lot of little moments. But the epiphany moment was, oh my gosh, when Bitcoin started taking off and it was like ramping up, we're like, what if there was a health coin? That's it. Very simple. Like, this is too complex. Insurance is too complex. I don't want to know about copays. I don't want to know about medical bills. There's people who go bankrupt because they had an accident out of state. That was a moment where, man, if we could just launch a health coin and not have to ever pay for insurance again, that would be a good goal. I could put my life on that stake.
Do you
I
think
think
it
that
can
was
come to a point where your community of users, etc., would get to a point where this could potentially pay for a good chunk of the healthcare, if not all of the healthcare, in a future few years down the road?
Yes, absolutely. And that is the dream because we lived for several thousands of years without health insurance. People grow up where they forget, like kids grow up and they can't see a world without a screen. We are the two or three generations that got used to health insurance can't see a world where there's no health insurance, especially with decentralization, Web3 coming in, where metaverse is going to have clinics. You don't need insurance for your healthcare needs. I grew up in India. It's a fee for service model or it's a government model. There's countries where they have social model. We've run the calculations on what the coin value needs to be to actually, for if each individual had one coin and what the value of the coin needs to be, then you never have to buy health insurance. But that's where it's drumming up the community, right? It's waking people up and saying, hey, look, if you could reach the coin value of this, you never have to pay health insurance for yourself, and then you can give that coin to your kids. They never have to worry. They can take the jobs they want to do. They can study what they want to study. They can be free in their lives, pursuing their life's goals. If you take that one thing away, that dependency on employment just to pay for your healthcare needs, people don't understand how hard that is, especially if you have a child with cancer. It's very hard. So yes, our goal is to get the coin value to a point where each individual can have their coin and say, you know what? Nope, not dealing with that anymore. I will pay for everything I want and I will go get whatever test I want whenever I want it. That's freedom. That's true freedom.
Now, you use a TikTok analogy, but maybe you could change it to be Bitcoin for healthcare or something like that.
Hey, I'm a great fan of Satoshi. If he ever reveals who he is or she is or whoever they are, yeah, I would love to shake their hand someday.
Now I want to talk about the healthcare and blockchain industry. I think a few years ago, if you go back a few years, healthcare was identified as one of the top industries, like supply chain, definitely financial services, as the industries that will see a lot of transformation because of Bitcoin. As far as Orkey is concerned, you think you would still be able to do this business without the blockchain component, right? Yeah. So this is the more of a, it's not a question about Orkey, but more to try and argue the case for blockchain. Everything that you're doing, is it possible without blockchain?
Is everything possible? Everything is possible without technology, if you ask me, right? If we were happier, more content, the generation that bridged the gap between like landlines and cell phones, anything is possible without technology. One of the biggest lessons I learned is don't be a solution looking for a problem. The biggest mistake a lot of people make in blockchain or in AI is they become a solution looking for a problem. We're not doing that, right? We're just leveraging, let's have a coin that pays for healthcare needs. How do we get to do that is what we went in search of. How do we make it more engaging? How do we get people interested? How do we actually do the right thing for the right reasons? That's the important part of it. And someone else once told me, I've had a lot of interesting conversations over the years, come to think about it, all these little analogies and metaphors that I picked up along the way. Someone once told me that blockchain is like spinach. Nobody wants to eat it. You gotta wrap it in something for people to consume it. Nobody cares if you solve a problem with blockchain, AI. They don't care. They just want to be healthy. They want to be happy. They want to be with their families. It's people like us who are like hardcore enthusiasts who are like, what if we solve this with this? Technically, there's 6 or 7 problems only that can be solved with a pure blockchain intervention, but that can be solved with AI too. You don't need quantum computing. You don't need any of that. The pain is the pain point or the reimbursement point, the reward point for implementing that particular technology for solving that particular problem has to make it worthwhile for people to even transition out of that technology. And that's where we have the coin, and that's where we have these little data points ingested into blocks. So eventually, what will happen is Archie becomes the first blockchain EMR before people realize it. And the beauty of that is where predictive analytics becomes simpler. There's less noise for AI to work on. It's very Boolean. It's either they had it or they didn't have it. I don't need to have the situational context. Most of the times I don't need to. Then there's the horses and the zebras analogy in medicine as well. But that's where we will end up. And so the value of Archie won't just rest in the clinical trials, the data monetization, the token economy. Eventually, as we go along, we become the first blockchain EMR company that'll help you gain better insights towards precision medicine, personalized medicine.
Yeah, no, this is a brilliant vision. I want to get into your experiences so far as the entrepreneur. But before we do that, one other question is, what are some of the milestones for Orkey over the next 12 to 18 months?
So you can see we're like really sweating it out here. Our team is very nimble and we're working on the MVP that is to be launched in 45 days. That's just going to be a patient facing app, the first part of it. The next thing that's on my radar and the team's radar is a B2B solution for medical necessity. And again, complexity behind the scenes. Nobody needs to hear the workings of this. We got to eat till we get to the VC funds, which are drying up faster than anything. We need to make money on our own. That's the number one caveat in business. If you can make a dollar, go make a dollar. Don't wait on anybody. So the next milestone for us is the medical necessity claims review, B2B white labeled solutions that we're working on for 6 months. In 2 years, we want to have the data a decentralized data place for or not for the clinical trials. It doesn't really matter at this point. Once you have a marketplace and people start getting engaged with it, it creates a life of its own. We're not too hung up on one thing or another. If you're not nimble, you don't survive in startup land. So we just let it take a life of its own. But for the next 2 years, our path is charted.
So now we'll come to your entrepreneurial journey, right? How has it been? Have you started pitching this to investors? What are they telling? What are some of the challenges you're experiencing and how are you overcoming them?
Close my ears and eyes, keep my head down. We do pitch to investors occasionally. We have these really crazy experiences in startup land. We get this guy from South Africa
Are you
who's
mostly pitching to investors in blockchain, or because I think a huge difference, sorry, in healthcare, are you pitching primarily to investors who have that traction in healthcare, or it's across the board?
it's across the board. It's hard because
It
people
would
have
be harder for someone who's not in healthcare to grasp it, right?
It is hard. And people have gotten spoiled. They just get spoiled by pure plays and, they're like, can you do this? And I'm like, no, that's not how it works, but we'll try for you. But we get a range of VC connections. We get a range of investors. We get people who want to give us loans. I've been to Paris 4 or 5 weeks back, meeting with investors. We're late by 40 minutes for a meeting. And then, it's like, it
Did
just
you
goes.
go to Paris Blockchain Week? I'm just curious. Were you there?
Yes, I was there at that time.
How
Yes.
was that experience?
It was overwhelming, crowded.
First time at PBS?
You need some space to be able to absorb it. When the enthusiasm is palpable, it's amazing to be caught up in that. But at the same time, we're going there for work, right? I need to get some work done. I need to get out of there with an outcome. Unfortunately, it's a lot of hype. We need solid outcomes. We need solid connections, right?
Yeah. So coming back to my question, overall, I guess it's not the hardest time to fundraise. Obviously, there's a lot of AI funding happening, the crazy things in AI. But yeah, how has it been overall? Like fund, what's the feedback you're getting from your investors?
So the feedback is a general feedback that every startup gets. Get me a product, get me some traction, then we'll talk. And then, there'll be further hurdles after that. That's the basic thing that anybody is going to ask. It keeps us sharper, it keeps us leaner, it keeps us smarter, and we keep our heads down and keep working. We've overcome a lot of those challenges by, I think, because it's a passion project, people stay with Aurkei and they believe in what we're doing. So our team is robust. We have interns coming in who are in it for the passion and the mission. So we have people willing to work for nothing for years, and we stay together. So we built a family over here at Aurkei, and I'm very proud of them. I can't go through a day without my team over here. So we keep chugging along. We're going to make our money. Once money comes, money follows. That's very strange. So we make our money, then the VCs will come. So we're like not too stressed out at this point. It prevents concept distillation, just dilution. It prevents concept dilution mostly. And that's what I tell my team. Hey, you know what? We can do it the way we want to do it. Just keep focused. Just keep going.
Very cool. This is inspiring, Sapna. You said 45 days, best wishes for that successful launch of the MVP. August 5th, I think when we spoke, offline, I said I'd love to see you, do a talk at Token Expo August 5th. If your MVP is ready by then, and if you're able to show us something, that would be great. Obviously, we'll have a follow-up conversation. If we're able to come down to San Francisco, yeah, we'd love to see you there at Token Expo.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tanveer. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
this has been a great conversation. You're working on a big vision, right? Where I can potentially see this, if it could reduce costs for healthcare, maybe even pay for the healthcare, the value of the coin goes up, more people are incentivized, we can see improvements in the whole, clinical trial process and all of that, right? So yeah, I think it's a big, bold, beautiful vision. Wish you and your team the very best. This was a great conversation. I would love for you to come back a few months and, talk more about, the progress and the success. Maybe, later in the year, we'll do a podcast. And then in the meantime, if you're able to come down to San Francisco, we'd love to see you at Token Expo.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you.
All right. I wish you the very best. Thanks for joining me. And we'll make this available in a few days. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Take care. All the best. Bye.